I have Harpreet Kaur and Manmeet Singh, producers and directors of documentary movie The Widow Colony. Can you talk about a little bit about your documentary? What is it about?
The Widow Colony is about the 1984 massacre of the Sikhs after the assassination of the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And this documentary is the voices of the survivors, mostly the widows that we focused on here, the mothers and sisters and daughters that were left behind. And for the first time, they were able to share their stories, their heart-wrenching stories of their husbands being butchered, their kids being killed, women being raped. So it's a heart-wrenching documentary, and we're reaching out to the mainstream media with this film, and it's doing excellent.
Yeah, and the name of the film is The Widow Colony, which is essentially borrowed from a colony on the west side of Delhi called Vidhva Colony, or Tilak Vihar is the actual name of that little suburban area. And you can actually go to the intersection and look at every house that surrounds you, and all those houses are occupied by widows whose husbands were killed in the massacre in 1984. It is a film that goes in and not only gives a voice to the widows, but tries to understand their current challenges, which right now they're still asking for justice for the killers, and at the same time they would like for the world to hear their voices and know their stories. So this film definitely provides that opportunity.
So it's usually the 1984 massacre is referred as Anti-Sikh Riots. So what is wrong with that terminology? You mentioned that in the documentary. Was it really Anti-Sikh Riots, or?
Oh, the reason it's not a riot is because a riot presupposes two communities engaging in a battle together with one another, and in this case, not one Hindu was killed. In fact, Hindus were helping the Sikhs. They were giving them clothing. They were sheltering the Sikhs. In this massacre, only Sikhs were butchered. And this was a government-sponsored massacre. It was organized because a night before the massacre, Sikh businesses, Sikh homes were marked with chalk. They were identified. These mobs came in trucks full of weapons with kerosene and daggers to butcher the Sikhs. And they had list of Sikh homes. So this cannot be called a riot.
Yeah, the term that we usually use is the massacre of the Sikhs in 1984. It can also be called pogrom. But the phenomena is much greater than November of 1984. It actually started, the spark started in 1978, and the phenomena continued all the way till the 1996 time frame. And we collectively call this the Sikh Holocaust, or the Third Sikh Holocaust. During these years, there are numbers ranging from 90,000 Sikhs to 250,000 Sikhs who were killed. Either they were killed in Punjab, UP, Kanpur, Delhi, other places throughout India. So the massacre really questions the role and the identity of the Sikh people within the Indian framework.
So what led to? Not all Hindus are involved, but a lot of people. What prompted that hate? What brought that hate in them to go out and kill Sikhs who've been their neighbors for years, in Delhi and other places?
I would say it's Brahmanistical propaganda. Why do Americans in general hate Muslims, or there's this Islamophobia that's being perpetrated either through media or otherwise? In the same sense, at that juncture in 1984, the president of the country was Gyani Zail Singh, who was a Sikh, and today too the prime minister is a Sikh, Prime Minister Manmeet Singh. So yet there are a few people in the mainstream with extremely right-wing Brahmanistical ideology, in which their vision of secular India is a secular Brahmanistical Hindu India, which is not supported by a good number of Hindus, and definitely not supported by any of the minorities in India, and definitely not by the international global community. So that hate is manufactured. It is intentional, whether it's for political mileage or other personal gains within India. It's not a natural phenomenon.
So what is going on right now with the case? It's been a long time. Can you tell us, how many people have been convicted, or if the case is in the court, or what is the status?
Well, that was the reason for making the film, because over 20 years have passed and justice hasn't been served. there have been 10 commissions, investigations, and 11 commissions and investigations, and yet no justice has been served. So the guilty roam free. In fact, Kamal Nath was here in Chicago, and there was a big uproar about that. So the world's largest democracy has failed to give its people justice, despite knowing its crimes, despite having the evidence there in eyewitness accounts.
And let me also warn people that what will happen to the justice for the Sikhs is exactly what is the future for the victims of Godhra. Because if we've been waiting while the Prime Minister of the country is a Sikh and we still don't have justice, we still don't have the Indian state accepting responsibility for the massacre of the Sikhs. And right in front of us, after this massacre, Narendra Modi is back in power. The BJP government has just won Karnataka. So do you really expect justice within the Indian framework? Well, it can be deliverable if all the forces unite, and Sikhs should ask for justice for all the victims, and the Muslims should ask for justice for all the victims, and we just need to have a just India. And we can't say for the Sikh victim, but also the victims of poverty through economic policy, whether it's through farmers' rights or whether it's through social evils of female feticide. It's a complex issue of the society degenerating in India, and religious violence is a part and parcel of this phenomenon.
So, what were you hoping to achieve with this documentary?
Well, our vision was to bring the stories out to the world, and that's what we promised the widows, that their stories would be told, because we feel that people who read books or read testimonies and read these stories, they feel like they put this as part of history, and they say, oh, this happened 20 years ago, and we just close a book and put it back on the shelf. But when you see these widows and hear these testimonies and they're on the screen, it makes you realize that 1984 wasn't 20 years ago, it's today. And that's the response we get after each screening, and people realize, whoa, I feel guilty that I forgot. And that's exactly how we felt. When I grew up reading these testimonies, reading these books, I wasn't as affected as I was when I went to Tilak Vihar and met these widows. And it hit me that, oh my God, this is real. The whole experience felt surreal because I was talking with these women and they were sharing their experiences. And that's when I realized how important it is that this documentary reach the masses. And every time I felt it was difficult to complete this film, that's what kept me going, the voices of these widows, because these stories need to reach out to people so that we never forget.
And how's the response so far?
The response is great. The festival, the film has toured several film festivals. It's won awards at the South Asia International Film Festival in New York, and not only won the Best Documentary Award, but the Best Overall Award of the festival, where there were Bollywood films being shown. So that was a great achievement, and that shows that people are concerned about these issues, and they are coming out and talking about films like this. And it creates a dialogue and plants a seed in people's head, and they start talking about this again.
So what's the next project for you guys?
The next project is on farmer suicides, and how is it possible that a country where the 70% of its constituency is agriculturers, the farming community, the rural community, and yet these people are totally being ignored in the new tiger economy. Every 32 minutes, a farmer commits suicide, and this is a very conservative estimate that doesn't account for the number of suicides that are happening in Haryana or Punjab or in some of the northern states. So we're looking at why are the farmers committing suicide, what kind of economy are they in, what is the impact of these suicides on the surviving families, whether it be their children or their wives that they leave behind. So that is the next project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for more information, you can go to www.thewidowcolony.com.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.